My brother in Christ, I heard you wanted a reverse. Can you take a G-Guard? Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Zizzy4 here. Today we are back to cover the most dangerous deck in Gear Chronicle. That's not Jet and not Fang and not History Maker. History Maker. It is Steam Maidens. So Steam Maidens is a deck that was introduced from the last V collection. Honestly, it's one of the most painful decks on the planet. Mainly because it has a really sharp multi-attacking engine, as long as a very irritating guard restrict that was really not meant for it, but he ended up abusing it to no end, and now it's just getting even worse for some strange reason not known to men. But no, whatever it is, we don't really care. We're here to enjoy this deck, and obviously this is not my thing, so today we have a guest here.
Alright, so I'm Yuki from the previous Steam Maidens deck profile, and today I'll be talking about my Steam Maidens deck. So, to start off, let's see.
Today we'll start off with our Great Trees and Greater. So we start off with 4 copies of Steam Maiden Ilal, 2 copies of Re-Innovate Winged Dragon, 1 copy of Mellow Amusement Gear Colossus, and 4 copies of Retroactive Time Maiden Uluru.
I think you mean 2. Let's get the show on the road. Alright, so for our 4 copies of Ilal, that's our main vanguard. A skill, she has an X skill where you can bind a unit from your drop to call a Steam Maiden from your bind zone. So basically, the bind from drop is used to build out your bind zone for future calling from bind zone, and also right, the calling Steam Maiden from bind zone after you paid the cost, right, is compulsory. So remember, if you don't want to call a Steam Maiden, you have to time it correctly. Yes, normally you'll be using the skill at the end of the main phase, so you don't accidentally clog your board with stuff with Re-Innovate Wing and then don't have enough space for it. So let's look at the next skill. So at the end of the battle, your Steam Maiden rearguard attack, you can use her skill to go and so-called jump it to the higher grade. For example, let's say I have a grade 0 Uluru on a force marker, then it goes up to a grade 1 Iruru on a force marker. You can actually call the unit anywhere, by the way, through this skill. So make the best out of your force markers and time the skill correctly. And also, if you call a grade 1 unit by this skill, you get to countercharge 1. So that's why it's so timing sensitive, and it allows you to really gain free value of the first skill. So effectively, you are guaranteed 2 attacks as long as you have a Steam Maiden. 2 rearguard attacks, yes. Then we are looking at the last skill, a continuous skill. So during your turn, this unit gains 1000 power for each card in your bind zone. And if it's on the Vanguard circle, it gains 3000 power for every card in your bind zone instead. So what this effectively means is that your center column will always be threatening. And your side columns, right? Let's say you went from the Grade 2 Steam Maiden to an extra copy of Ilal that ended up in the bind zone because you Soul Blasted it or whatever. That's also another effective beat stick. So that effectively is our major game plan. It's a very Vanguard centric deck. So let's have a look at the surrounding support. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about the other great trees that we have. Our returning favorite, Re-Innovate Wing. This time, however, we decided to cut him down to 2 copies, and you might be wondering why. That's because the rest of our deck now binds more, and then Re-Innovate Wing has the issue of being blind binding, where essentially you just bind the top 3 cards. It's not really bind the top 3 cards, but like call 2 and bind 1. So it's like you don't really get to guarantee the quality of the cards you're binding. Sometimes you bind triggers. Yeah, effectively immediately gives your Vanguard 9k instantly, and it's a good tempo piece and a good backup, right? But we have a lot better things to play now.
It's not a backup, right? If you write this, you lose.
Are you sure?
Quite.
Alright, let's see about that. Anyway, let's talk about another returning favorite, Colossus. So, Mellow Amusement's Colossus makes our attacks more lethal. Basically, when you call this unit, you can bind a unit from your hand, buy a card from your hand actually, and then for the rest of the entire turn, all of your units' attacks have to be guard with 2 or more cards. So basically you want to time this exactly when your opponent is at higher damage, so you force out more cards from them. Don't try to call this too early, it's not going to work out well. And then the ideal usage is before you use Re-Innovate Wings, so that because this is effectively a dead card on board, it's just a vanilla after it's played, so you would likely want to use it as a target for Re-Innovate Wings cycle, and it's also a way to set up your bind if you really desperately need to set it up.
Just more methods to the bind, the better.
Yep. Last but not least, speaking about bind, we have our new breakout star, basically retroactive Time Maiden Uru. So another important thing to note before we talk more about this card is that it's not counted as a Steam Maiden, so please be very aware and careful of that. So when this unit is placed on the Guardian Circle, you can bind or return a unit return a card from your drop zone to the deck. So right, and then during that battle it gains 25k shield. So effectively, right, it's the G-Guard of old returning to V series. You can now G-Guard from your hand, or by using the second skill, by discarding a heal trigger if this unit is in a drop, you can superior call it, and then using the first skill you can just return the heal trigger back to the deck or bind it depending on what is necessary. So immediately, right, one very important thing to note, right, is that at the end of the battle, right, when this unit is like retired from the Guardian Circle,
you bind it instead.
Yes, that immediately accelerates your bind zone up to by 2 at
and it
maximum.
trains it into the bind zone straight away. You don't have to actually get something else to bind it.
And you can also use your Vanguard Elau skill to leap a grade 3 into a grade 4. It's very situational, but there are times where you have to be aware that, well, this could be your finisher.
Yep. Moving on to the grade 2s, we play...
And...
this one. Yep.
Alright, let's talk about the new Steam Maiden on the block. Steam Maiden, Antarana. So basically, Antarana's skill is that auto on Vanguard, auto when this unit is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, counterblast 1, search your deck for a Steam Maiden, a Gear Cat Traveling Storm, and then call it to a Rearguard Circle in the same column as this unit, and then shuffle your deck.
So it's basically just like an Akane and Pongo, but now it's for Steam Maidens. It's like Doha and Garan. Oh my goodness.
And if you have a closer look, they are both featured in each other's art. It's a really neat touch.
Yeah.
Let's look at the second skill. So other than 3+1, we have the auto on Rearguard Circle. When this unit, at the end of the battle, this unit boosted, attack when boosted. You may Soul Blast 1, and then look at the review the top 2 cards of your deck, and then from there add 1 to hand, and then choose the other one to bind it. So this effectively allows you to set up your bind zone and also add a Steam Maiden card, hopefully, to your hand. This is not name locked in any way, so it really allows you to set up things very efficiently, and also it's a way to get things out of the soul. Yeah, speaking of things that do go to the soul, we still have our returning staple. It's a Steam Mechanic Nabu. Basically, when this unit attacks, you may bind a card from your drop zone, and until the end of the battle, right, when your opponent guards, it cannot guard with grade 1 or above units, and also, right, this unit moves to soul and draws you a card. So what this really does is allows you to have a early game, right, against certain decks which are more control focus, I am going to say that. Like for example, if you are trying to counterplay decks like Chaos Breaker, this is really good. And also, right, you can also use this towards the end game and combo it with Court Losses, right, where your opponent cannot guard with grade 1 or higher cards and must guard with 2 or more. This is very dangerous, and it also allows you to get around Heal Guardians very easily. So it's overall a really good card. Alright, and now let's move on to our last grade 2. It's a Steam Maiden Aruru. So Steam Maiden Aruru, basically when she's called from the bind zone, you can bind a card from the drop zone, and then it gains 3k for each of the grades of the card. So what she's normally done or used for, right, is that when you go to her from either the grade 1 Steam Maiden or your Vanguard skill, she can become a solo attacker, right, without any booster. And that's very Good. And then you have the second skill, right? Where at the end of the battle, this unit attacked, right? If you have a Vanguard with Steam Maiden in its name, you may counterblast 1, and you may bind this unit and superior call a grade 3 or greater unit. Just a grade 3 unit. Yes. So this is how you enable multi-attack in this deck, and also, right, do note that you can use your Vanguard to substitute this skill for free. Let's say that you don't really have too many calling to do. So time your counterblast wisely.
Moving on to our grade 1s, we play Lost Gear Dog 8. Gear Cat Traveling the Storm.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about the newest card, Gear Cat Traveling the Storm. So basically, Gear Cat Traveling the Storm, when this unit is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard circle, doesn't even need to be placed from the hand, by the way. You just look at the top 3 cards of the deck, and then you add up to 1 Steam Maiden card from the deck, from the top 3 to your hand, and then put the rest at the bottom.
So it's a free +1.
Yes,
again.
And it's also very effective filtering. And then it has a skill just like your Ilau Vanguard, where it gains 1000 power for every card in your bind zone during your turn.
Wow.
It's free magic numbers.
What a good card.
Yes. And now we move on to one of the most important staples in Gear Chronicle, Lost Gear Dog 8. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard about them. I'll just talk about the skill. So when this unit is placed from hand, you can reveal a grade 3 unit, and then you can search your entire deck for any grade 3 unit, and then just discard cards up to the sum of grade 3 for the cost. And then when this unit is discarded, it's regarded as grade 3. So this Lost Gear Dog 8 is the reason why we can run lesser grade 3s. As you realize, compared to our previous build, now we are running a lot lesser grade 3s. And basically it's a way to unbrick yourself. Supposing you drew into a Colossus, now you can immediately turn the Colossus into an Ilau Vanguard. You really want to reach your Vanguard, by the way. So this is just really good searching, and beyond that, it's just good deck thinning also. Last but not least, we have the Grade 1 Steam Maiden. So the Grade 1 Steam Maiden has an X skill on Vanguard. So last one, buying a Grade 2 or lower card, and then you can draw 1 card, and if you bind a trigger unit for this cost, you can draw 2 cards. So it's a really, if you realize, all of our Grade 1 right targets are really good. So let's talk about why this one is good too. So effectively, it allows you to convert any triggers that you have drawn, right, to extra card advantage. And normally you want to bind quick triggers for this cost, so you can keep the heal triggers in your hand for extra shield value. So that's one thing to take note of, because you have a lot of sources of binding in this deck. And also it's the same skill as the Grade 2, aside from the fact that, you know, this needs to go from a 1 to a 2. And you can also substitute it with the Vanguard skill for a free leap, per se. Alright, now let's move on to our triggers.
Our grade 0s, we play 1 Chrono Tiga, 4 Heal Uluru, 4 Draw PG, and 8 Crit.
Yes. So we play 4 Uluru because the deck is a Steam Maiden deck. It relies on this as one of our key combo starters, and also, right, it allows you to just counter charge, because if you use any other Steam Maiden leaping, it doesn't give you the counter charge. There's no target for it. And also, right, you can technically run 1 Heal Guardian as a tech choice, right? I've seen people done it, and you can search it out through Lost Gear 8, but I wouldn't really recommend it since it makes the overall game plan less consistent. We run 8 crits because, well, with a Vanguard center column that large, you would really, really appreciate just being able to win there and then. It's like an instant win. And our 4 Perfect Guards because, well, Perfect Guards are Perfect Guards. You want to win. You don't want to just lose to like a very careless, I don't know. What decks can immediately crit you to death on turn 3?
The Cross.
Perhaps.
And our 1 starter is Chrono Tiga. So yeah, that basically wraps it up for our Steam Maiden deck profile. The deck really doesn't change much because, you know, even if you add 3 new cards, the deck can't really change much, but The ideologies behind the deck are also still the same. It is still a multi-attacking deck that still relies on its counterblast, and it still has really good ways to beat down and destroy the opponent, as well as now it has a defensive option and free options in the form of the new cards. It has much more resource advantage, and it also gains more card advantage easier, which is a far cry from the Steam Maidens of before, which were a lot more one-to-one in dealing with their aggression. Now they can attack more freely because they can gain cards a lot more easier. The pieces just flow easier, and then you can eventually just win the game better.
Yep, and if you've realized, right, there are quite a few exclusions that we have made, mostly because of the nature of the deck. For example, people might be wondering why we don't play very impactful Gear Chronicle cards like a card. That's because we would prefer the bind engine rather than the immediate just quick gain, which
Or the discard
drive.
engine.
Yeah. And also, right, we also excluded Kurunta because the cost of Counterblast is slightly higher in this build, and also
You
we
no
don't really
longer need
appreciate
it because
yes.
you have better cards like this one. So
And with the Lost Gear 8 reprint, it's very affordable and very easy to find your grade 3 pieces, so you don't really need to rely on Kurunta, which is a costed card, to get your Colossus out.
yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Bye bye!